And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, February 8th, 2020. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Ew.
Fantastic.
Pretty crisp.
Hello.
We are officially open for business this week.
Boom.
We have some awesome stuff, dude. Like, we had some awesome stuff. Why is there an echo?
I don't hear one.
No,
No.
let me get a
this.
confirmation from chat that there's not an echo. Because I believe there may be.
I just checked the stream and I don't hear one.
Okay, so maybe OBS is just lying to me. Okay, anyway, getting back to business, we had an awesome Biddle Europe show. We talked about, well, we got a little bit into Solus, but we got into laptops, we got into hardware. We were visited by Rick Timmis, the community manager for Kubuntu, and he talked about the Kubuntu Focus and all that it has to offer. And it was a great conversation. And then we had, other hardware stuff to talk about as well. Tonight, we are going to talk about our distro challenge, Solus 4.1. We also have to pick a new distro for this week. And I believe we came up with a good plan of how to pick one. Eric's got to talk about the vote thingy he put up on the website. Very technical with the names. We are going to be joined in the second hour by Cassidy James from Elementary OS. And he's going to talk about the App Center changes that are coming up and the Indiegogo fund that they started to get together out in Colorado and do a meetup code thingy. Let me silence my phone whilst I say, hey, let's talk about our distro challenge, Solus 4.1. So some of you guys went last week, but I think if I call on any of you guys that have went already and you just want to give an update, that's fine. But we're just going to go through the whole list because I think we'll have time to do that. So, Jason, Solus.
Well, I did mention, I did use it last week. Again, a little bit this week. I have it on a virtual machine on my other machine. And all I gotta say is that it is it's a nice distro, very clean, very easy to install. I had no issues on the install. I had no issues when I was using it. It's just, all I gotta say is it's a great distro.
Good.
Very nice. All right, Joe. Welcome back.
I'm here. I'm just listening right now. I did not. I just put it in a VM, both Budgie and Plasma, and just took a quick look at it, but I didn't get a chance to really spend time on it. I will say for going into the VM, it was unbelievably fast installs. Even running it seemed to be really quick and stuff, but that's about the extent of where I got with it. So next.
All right, Eric, tell us about Solus.
I think I pretty much gave my feedback last week, but the one thing I'll say is that I do like that they've got some different layouts for some of the desktops. So like Mate has a different layout than what you'd see in Ubuntu Mate. Budgie comes with a different. I'm used to the Ubuntu Budgie layout, so the layout in Budgie for them is different. The theming looks great, and I just it's not something I'm going to run because I just don't need the specific focus that they have. It's just not. I'm not the target for that, I feel, and so. But I think everything I tried, I didn't run into any issues. It all seems like it's pretty well put together, and I mean, you had mentioned earlier on the Europe stream the idea of so much choice. It's not a bad choice, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And if it was, let's say, one of a few choices, then yeah, I would say it probably would stand out a little more. But because I have so many options and choices, I just, unless a distro has something that really hooks me, excuse me, I just, it's, I'm sure it's there. and I know the people that use it and love it for a reason, and use it for a reason. That reason just isn't there for me. So.
Yep. Perfectly fine.
Thanks, Eric. Rocco. Looks
I
like
can't.
you're up.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, the first week I did Solus or tried to install Solus. I told you last week that
Yeah.
I couldn't get it installed. And this week was such a busy week at work that when I got home, there wasn't much time for anything. So, except for playing maybe a little bit of COD. Other than that, I didn't have a whole lot of time to get to it. So,
Fair enough.
Priorities, Rocco.
I know
Priorities.
that's why I was playing Call of Duty, Colin.
Exactly.
I know how it goes. My week was equally fun.
Yep.
Anyway, pizza.
I'm doing pretty well. I'm sick, so sorry about my voice, and that's why I don't have my webcam up. So when Solus 4.1 came out, I used to be a huge Solus fanboy. It used to be my favorite distro. I would not use anything else. But then when Solus 4.0 got released, I didn't like it that much, and I actually switched over back to, I can't remember what I switched to after that, but I stopped using Solus when 4.0 came out. I felt like it was a little bit overhyped, and all it really did was change the theming and do a couple of things back end. Solus 4.1, still, it's better. I feel like it had a better launch than 4.0 because I remember 4.0 was pretty buggy when it came out, and 4.1 isn't that buggy. There is a new Plasma edition, and I don't really like that Plasma edition. I did download it on day one, and it had a bunch of theming issues when I installed it inside of my VM that I've never seen before on a Plasma distro. I made a video about that, so I'm not going to get into them. But then a couple of days later, people were reporting that the issues weren't happening anymore, so they might have released another ISO with them fixed. I don't know. And then I downloaded it again and didn't have those issues. So I don't know what happened. Maybe I don't know. But Solus, I feel like Solus is one of the best distros for the masses. But it's also one of the worst distros for people who care about like the technical things. So Solus has a really great software center. It's one of the only software centers that actually use, even if it's deprecated, which I think it is. Someone told me it is. It still works very well. And it's just a very good distro, and it's an even better rolling release than Microsoft's rolling release. Even more stable. It's the most stable rolling release there is. And so because of that, that's the distro I recommend for the masses, because it's rolling release. They won't have to upgrade their OS every 6 to 8 months, whatever. And it just, everything works. But for the technical side of things, I feel like Solus is not as good of a distro because they're really picky with what they decide to package. They refuse to package Lib Handy because they don't want like mobile phone dependencies on a desktop, but then they proceed to package Electron apps. So they aren't packaging Lib Handy for whatever reason. They don't package Chromium. They said that they need an API key or something. I can't remember specifically, but they need something from Google. But it's been a year and a half, and they still haven't had Chromium. They're just really stubborn with what they decide to package. And they have a lot of older packages that haven't been updated in their repos, but then fresh new things like Lib Handy, for example, they refuse to package just because. And if you're having an independent distro with a small repo and a package manager that isn't very mainstream, you have to kind of set aside philosophy and actually package stuff that people want. And that is one of my issues with distro is don't know why I keep saying distro. With Solus, is how hypocritical they are with their packaging.
Well, the one thing I will say, Pizza, you had mentioned earlier about certain, maybe the last release or this release, there wasn't a whole lot that went into it, but there is a whole lot of work that goes into a distro release, even if there's not a huge amount of shiny features. So your review is excellent because it gives good and bad things. But I will say that regardless if there's shiny new features or not, there's a ton of work that goes in behind the scenes for any release that comes out.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm actually putting it together a distro myself, and I've been putting a lot of hard work into that. It's just so many features are planned for Solus 4.0, and only like 3 things from that feature list actually went into effect because they're going to have a new software center, a new uh, package manager with SOL instead of EOPKG. It was basically they're redoing so many things, but then uh, Ike abandoned the project. Ike Doherty, I think that's how his name is pronounced. I don't know. And then almost none of those features came in except for like the theming change and stuff like that. So by overhyped, I don't mean that was a bad release. It was a little bit buggy when it first came out, but it wasn't a bad release. I'm just saying it was overhyped because of how many things they announced for it compared to actually what got released.
Right.
I'm done talking.
I know. he's
I think
getting his mic.
There he is.
It's all good.
Uh-oh.
I didn't get a chance to try Solus again. I had intended to this week. But I was going to install it on Metal. I had done it in a VM, and I had a good experience there, but I didn't get back to it.
That's okay. We forgive you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a shickle.
I guess I am, aren't I?
You are. How are you, sir?
I'm tired. I don't know why. I feel drained, but I'm excited at the same time. It's a weird mix of emotions.
It's called
Hang
lack
in
of
there. Hang in
sleep.
there. You can do it.
I got really excited by this release of Solus because of a few things. First and foremost was the release of the Plasma Edition, which is the one that I've been using. It did have a few issues with it at the start, but in regards to stability, everything seemed to be okay. I know a lot of people were kind of looking for something really distinct and incredible and amazing with the Plasma release. The point of the Plasma release wasn't really to create like its own sort of like, here's a brand new, like completely different desktop type of workflow. No one's ever seen this before. It's more of just making Plasma properly implemented and usable and offerable as a desktop in Solus. You weren't going to see like fancy unseen widgets you've never seen before. It was nothing of the sort. So I think a lot of people were probably somewhat let down because they were expecting more, and it's kind of just a basic Plasma desktop. In regards to how much has changed with the system, it's the Solus that we've kind of known for the past couple years or so. You know, it's got a really, really fast package manager. It's using system deboot for your EFI configurations instead of grub. So beware dual booters. It's easy to break. I think that as Pizza kind of alluded to with the overhyping for the 4.0 release, there were a lot of things that kind of fell through with that previous release, and I feel like the team has learned a lot in regards to at least pacing themselves. There's already a countdown for what is most likely the next ISO release, which is in less than 60 days, which is fantastic. Shows that they're probably working on creating some kind of production schedule for them. But I will just leave it at I really enjoy the system overall. They do need to work a bit on packaging. They need to work a bit on software compatibility. And other than that, though, I think they are a fantastic distro with a lot of potential. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Excellent. And I agree with you. I had been following the pre-release of KDE. I actually used the Plasma. There was a unofficial version for Solus 4, and I had used it, and I thought it looked nice then. I mean, I don't know what expectations people have out of Plasma. They're really, most distros ship it in a fairly vanilla way. So, I mean, Chaos does some things, and some others do, but for the most part, you know, Plasma's Plasma. So if it's running on that base and it runs well, then I guess that's what I expected. So yeah, I'm not sure what people. I mean, I think it would be cool if someone did like a latte dock and got all crazy. Nitrix does some pretty crazy stuff with plasma. So anyway, all right, we have a new guest this week. That's actually an old guest. You're going to recognize him. I don't know if he's there. Papal Penguin. Your Holiness.
I'm here. Thank you. No, Solus is definitely a good distro for new people. It has an easy to use system to be able to get custom with Budgie. Budgie is wonderful. It definitely is becoming one of my favorite uh, side desktops. I'll stick close to my GNOME, but Budgie is a close second for me. But I've already spoken quite a bit about how I liked it. But I'm probably going to be going back to. In fact, I already downloaded the ISO for Manjaro Budgie to try out the Budgie version of Manjaro. I'm going to throw it in. I have it in a virtual machine, and I'm going to play with it before replacing my current distro.
Is there any chance you'll be making a video about that?
There's a good chance. Yes, I have my own YouTube channel.
All right.
And if you guys could spam the address anytime, that would be cool so I could start getting some subscribers. I have old content from when I was vlogging on there, but I'm going to start posting videos. Steve's going to be working with me on showing me the ropes on streaming. So I'm looking forward to it. Learning from a master.
I will get that link in the YouTube chat for you, brother.
Thank you.
All right, Steven, sir, how are you?
Good. How are you, Rocco?
I'm doing awesome. What do you think of Solus?
This is actually my first time installing Solus. I've first time trying Budgie, so I went ahead and did the Budgie version as opposed to KDE, since I've used KDE quite a bit. Just going over the pros. First of all, the installer is very nice. Most of the distros, you see like using Ubiquity or like Halvares or something. Their installer is a custom installer. It looks very nice, and I didn't try anything like fancy with the install. Just a straightforward installation, but it worked really well, very fast. The entire distro looks very polished. The Budgie desktop is very responsive. It feels like a very cohesive experience. I noticed that the memory footprint for the desktop is fairly low. I think it's less than 500 megabytes after boot, which you compare that to like GNOME, you're looking at 1.2 gigabytes. So that's it's definitely, considering how nice it looks and how smooth it works, it's very lightweight. Because it is fast even in a VM. And the package manager looks very cool. I know that's very it's just an aesthetic thing, but an aesthetic thing. But yeah, it looks nice. The cons. One thing, at least for me, the package manager seemed to run a little bit slow. I didn't install a whole lot with it, but it did feel a bit slow. I'm not sure if it may have been my internet connection or whatnot, but the fact that the repos are a little bit limited is something that I'm not real interested in pulling stuff from Flatpaks and snaps if I don't have to. I'd rather pull things from the default repos, and so that's something that would probably that I would consider a con. But it's a very nice experience. It seems like something that would be good for a new user. Like I said, it's very like a very consistent experience, very polished experience, and I don't know. I thought it was very nice.
all very valid points. Definitely, I had made the statement that in the Biddle Europe edition, or I commented on EB's statement about the limited software, and Serge had mentioned that you can install snaps or Flatpaks or app images or whatever on Solus, so that opens up the software for it. But again, I go back to one, that being, you may not want that specific version of a Flatpak or a snap because of a bug in that, or like you suggested, that you just may not want to use that type of software. You just may want to use the repos. So that does limit it to a certain extent. All right, Thomas, sir.
Hey.
Hi.
Sorry. So I did go last week, but I tried it on hardware this week. A lot of the people in the Telegram group heard about the issues I had. So immediately after installing Solus on actual hardware, my laptop that I was testing this on refused to go past the post screen. And I have no idea why it was doing this. And I will admit, initially I was blaming this on Solus, but Schickel pointed out that was rushing a little bit too much into things, and he was totally right. So I'm not blaming it on them. But I did have this bug immediately after installing Solus on my machine. I tried, pulling the main battery out of the laptop. I tried pulling the CMOS battery out of the laptop, and I have tried letting the main battery completely drain, and I cannot fix it. So I don't know what happened. I'm not 100% sure if it's Solus's fault, but this did happen immediately post a Solus installation, and I have not been able to fix it since. Otherwise, I did notice that Solus took a little bit longer to boot on actual hardware versus a VM. And I don't know if that's due to memory speed or the number of cores it had available to, or hard drive speed, or what. It wasn't forever. It just took a little bit longer.
All I know is, all I heard was Solus bricked my laptop, blah, blah, blah.
I'm not blaming it on them until I have hard evidence that it is actually Solus's fault. So,
any other distro on that same drive or in that system?
So I did. I had an alpha of Draugr OS on it.
Uh-huh.
And I was intentionally just completely wiping it and installing Solus.
Okay, so you were just going to have Solus at all completely on that machine for testing?
Yes.
Okay.
I think what happened, and this is purely speculation, I don't have a lot of evidence to go off of this. I think what happened is when Solus was installing, it installed system deboot as the bootloader, and Draugr OS on UEFI, that alpha was using system deboot as well. And I think that filled up the NVRAM, but in removing the CMOS battery, that should have cleared my NVRAM.
Yeah, it should dump it completely.
Yeah, but it didn't do anything. So I don't know what's going on.
Did you try a different hard drive?
Clearing your CMOS battery is not going to clear your NVRAM. It's non-volatile RAM. It's just going to sit there.
It shouldn't be active, though.
It's not RAM. It's like your hard drive almost.
Like an EEPROM.
Yeah, it's just sitting there. It's burned. So you got to
said he cleared it.
So
said he pulled his CMOS battery.
I did that, and then I also followed the instructions on Dell's website to clear the NVRAM and CMOS storage because this is a Dell laptop.
Did you try a different hard drive just for ha-has?
I don't have another hard drive that I can chuck in it, but I have tried booting from that USB drive again. Basically, what I'm getting is it goes to the post screen, and it will either show part of the post screen, so like it'll be clipped in half, or a black screen, or just the post screen, and it does nothing at all. I can't even reach the BIOS setup utility.
Oh, it doesn't even get that far.
No, nothing.
Wow.
It's basically like it has what it needs to get to the post screen, and everything else is gone. But I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if I don't know if you've got multiple sticks of RAM in there. Maybe you could fiddle around with that. Maybe stick one at a time kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure if that'll work, but
I
it's
don't.
worth a shot later.
Absolutely. It's easy.
Yeah.
But
Do
I
you
would've thought
have an
you would've had
external
that problem
monitor that you
before.
could try in case the built-in monitor is getting a little flaky, the connector?
I do. And I hadn't thought about that, so I'll make sure to try that too. I'm not mad about it though. There was no sensitive data or anything like that that I absolutely had to keep on it. So it's not like it's the end of the world or anything. But I would have liked to keep that laptop because it is the only hardware I have to test on. So, oh well.
Yep.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That's tough, man.
Yeah. The only other thing I have to say about Solus is since I had that bootable USB, I was using it to work on somebody else's system later this week. And I noticed that they did not have Arch install scripts in their package repository. And I guess they don't need it, but it is something that I personally need. And I'm not entirely sure how to pull that into their repositories or request it. If somebody could like send me a link on how to request that, that'd be great.
I can do that.
Awesomeness. Thank you. But other than that, in VM, it's great. Absolutely great. Just that one time on hardware, it did not like me.
This sounds like a problem I would have, Thomas.
Yeah.
Kind of does.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for agreeing.
That's all.
All right. Well, thanks, Thomas. Sorry for your woes, and hopefully you get that fixed so that you can continue to keep testing on there. Chris, good evening, sir. How are you?
Just Solus for 2 weeks. Moving on.
Okay. Tony, you got any further insight this week on your experience with Solus?
Only a little bit. I did say last week that I was going to mess about and try and get a Flatpak system sorted so that I could install Zoom. Had I managed to do that, I was going to run it and do it for the show. But before doing that, I decided to install it on the main machine, the budgie version, because that's the one I've always liked and always seemed to work best.
Yeah.
I installed it. I got 99% of the software on there, just off having to deal with Zoom and the Flatpak issue. I got my printer to print, but I couldn't get the scanner to work, and I had a fix that I'd used on lots of other distros, which I'd sorted out, which worked. It started to scan and then stopped. So I thought, well, it is sort of partially working, so how do I fix that? Spent several hours, couldn't fix it, and it's a HP, and it's supposed to be fully Linux compatible, so who knows? And then I got a bit fed up and decided I wasn't going to bother with the Flatpak thing because I wouldn't run it anyway because I couldn't get the scanner to work. So I gave up.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's a shame because Solus Budgie has always been my favorite. But the only other thing I wish they wouldn't do is force you to use a minimum of 6 digits for your password. I want to choose what I want to put on. I don't want to be dictated to. This is why I come to Linux, for the freedom. And I feel they've taken that away a little bit. It's probably a silly thing that most people wouldn't care. They just put a 6-digit plus in anyway. Me, I like to use something less than 6, and I want to have the choice.
After you install Solus, does running the password command let you use less than 6?
No.
It does, but you have to use the CLI for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so that does work.
It's a bit of a mess.
Don't.
Yeah, so what you do is after you install it, open up GNOME Terminal or whatever, and then type PASSWD, and then enter in your old password, and you can enter in a new one that is less than 6 digits.
Didn't know that. Newbie, see?
Yeah, it's still kind of a hassle though, right?
Yeah, it's why do they do it? Why don't they just let you have what you want? It's not their problem. It's your problem if you want to use 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. Yeah, they should give you a warning, saying maybe don't do that, but they shouldn't restrict you. Yeah.
No, that's my problem. It's good to know that that's possible and it would overcome it, but it still wouldn't fix the scanner, unfortunately.
There is one distro I remember that we were testing that was in one of the challenges that suggested 6 letters or six characters. And if you didn't put in 6, it would kind of tell you that's not secure type of thing, but it let you.
Right.
The
Yeah,
default was
well-
6 characters. Remember? I don't remember which one it was.
Most distros will let you put in what you want. It'll tell you it's a weak password, or
Mhm.
you
Right.
should use a combination of things. And some, I can't remember which one it is. One of the distros, you have to click twice to tell it, yes, I do want to do this,
Yeah,
even
that's
though
what
you
I was
don't like
thinking.
it.
Yeah, the Fedora stuff does that. Yeah.
Some other
Right.
one did too, because I didn't run Fedora.
But at least you have the choice.
Mhm.
Minor thing, really. But if Solus could work out their software so it was easier, I'd live with the password thing. But well, there you go.
All right, very good. Well, thanks, Tony. Colin, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. I did use Solus a little bit more, the Plasma version during the week, not as much as what I'd hoped, but I'm with Schickel on this one. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's stable. It's not any crashes or anything from my experience anyway. It's your typical Plasma version, and it seems to have what I would say is the consistency of Solus that they try to have across the board of all flavors. And I've used it a little bit. All seems to be running okay, but yeah, I was pretty busy doing some other things this week, so I didn't use it as much as I'd hoped. But it's just another Solus flavor that they're probably pretty happy that it's up there and running quite stable. So that's all I've got to add from last week.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Hey, it's Steve.
Hey.
Hey, Steve.
Eric. Hey, Eric.
How's it
Hey,
going?
everybody. Okay. I went from Plasma to Budgie. I've never had real good success with Plasma. I mean, I liked the way it looked. I mean, they did a nice job theming it. But I wasn't sure if the issue I was having with OBS was a Plasma thing. Because the testing laptop I used, I've never had an OBS issue where it flickered like that. So I went with Budgie, and it happened the same way. And I also, because I installed the Flatpak, and I thought maybe that would be different, and it still did the same thing. In full screen capture, it was just flickering like it was the Pulse engine on the Enterprise, all in all, though, I mean, as far as like a creator and stuff like that, if OBS isn't working right, it's not going to be, the distro is not going to be real conducive to doing a good stream or anything like that. Because even once you lowered the screen, or minimized OBS to screen capture, you would still catch some flickering throughout the record, the video. Solus is, I think, for the everyday user. It's set up. I love the fact that I didn't have, I have a Brother printer, and all of a sudden a little pop-up came up and your printer is ready. I'm like, wait a minute. So I did a test, print it up. I didn't have to install any driver. I mean, Brother has made it easier, at least with Ubuntu and all that. You can use, they have it now set up in a deb package. But that was really nice. So it in that aspect, and I don't know if that's part of the kernel or whatever, but not having to have to set up. Now, I didn't try any scanning with it. I've never had good luck with scanning off the Brother from any of the software in Linux. But I mean, for the regular masses, they're correct. I think, but Solus is perfect. If I keep telling my wife, if once her Windows 10 does one more mistake, I'm changing it, and I will probably put maybe Solus on there because it will look nice and modern on her nice new laptop. But I have no problem with using it. It's just as far as the creator view, and also GIMP. It was GIMP 210, which was nice. But when I use GIMP, I have to have Gimmick in there. And they had it in their software center, but it didn't install right. it wasn't even creating files in the section that it normally should go into. So I'm not sure where it installed to. Peter said he did a look, and that is a known issue. But I mean, that's more of a personal preference because I like using Gimmick with GIMP. But otherwise, I mean, I think yes, I agree with Pizza and that and Schickle there. It's a nice distro for the masses if that's all you're going to do is use your computer for everyday stuff.
All right. Well, and I know you gave it a fair shake. You definitely tried and used it quite a bit. So this is good.
And I had no I had no problem installing both of them. Just saying.
Yeah. No, good. I mean, this is the point, right? We all try it in our different ways and give our feedback. So that's, and Steve, you kind of went above and beyond like you usually do. So that's excellent. David.
Using it for the second week, like the earlier versions, it ran fine. The only thing I ran into that was a speed bump, not even a real niggle, the third-party section of the App Store. I went to install Sublime Text, and it said it was installing, and then it hung there. And I went and came back an hour and a half later, and it still said it was hanging. But when I crashed out of the App Store and went into my menu, Sublime Text was there, and it opened right up. So it did install it. It just didn't cleanly come out of the installation process in the App Store. That was the only thing I had an issue with. It's set up the way I like it. The only reason I don't run it is that I'm too lazy to learn the EO packaging system to set the apps that it doesn't have that I want and use to get them there. But other than that, it's a great distro. I love it. It looks great. It works fabulous. Just is missing some of the apps that I use on a regular basis.
Yep. Very good, Dave. Very good. Barbara, how are you?
I didn't get a chance to install it, but before I did have 4.0 running, and I didn't know how much of it was going to be the same or different, whatever. But the one thing a number of people have talked about is if something isn't in their repositories, then you can go to a Flatpak or app image or whatever. But what happens if the software that you need does not exist as an app image, a Flatpak, excuse me, or a snap? That's where I think the problem comes in.
It's a fair
and I
point.
don't want to be forced to have to use, well, it's got to be a Flatpak or a snap or whatever. I don't like having to be forced to do that. I'm like, I don't know, somebody else said the same thing and I feel the same way. Yep. So I think that's something they have to kind of like look at.
Barb, we always talk about, universal packages. This came up on the Europe stream as well. That's great for desktop applications, but I think for the more core pieces of your system, I agree. I mean, I think the underlying distro, there's a certain expectation that at least some of these packages are there. And these universal formats don't solve that issue.
Yep. All right. Adam Grubbs is here in the house, in the flesh.
Yep.
What's happening?
I'm here. Not a whole lot, man. I hear you guys are all using Linux or something.
Well,
so I decided to come in and say hi.
We just kind of get together every once in a while and talk about it.
It's news to me.
Adam has a special thing to talk about after this.
Okay.
I'm going to make him talk about it.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, you said he doesn't like us.
Yeah, this should be fun.
Sorry.
I didn't try Solus.
You didn't try Solus. Okay.
No.
All right. Hey, Dolphin.
Yeah.
How about that Ubuntu Focus? Was that not cool or what?
Man, that thing is sweet. I don't even care about the battery life. I wasn't jagging on it. The website for that laptop does a great job of selling that laptop, But when it doesn't tell you, it gives you so much information about everything else on the device, and it doesn't tell you three things. It doesn't tell you the size of the battery, how long the battery lasts, or how much it weighs, which means it's a little bit heavy and it's got lousy battery life. But that's okay, because that thing is a power machine. And
that thing is nice, dude.
The base machine was $1,800.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there seriously looking at my truck going, do I really need to tow a trailer? I don't think so. I think I need that laptop.
I think you do.
1 terabyte NV RAM, 32 gig. My mind was blown. I do all my stuff on a dumpster diver ThinkPad here, and the ThinkPads are ridiculously stout. They're tough. They last forever. Big fan of them. I got like 5. And I'm like, I'll toss them all right now and go get that other one, that Focus. I was tickled. Plus, it doesn't have a Windows key, right? It's got the Ubuntu button.
It does. It's got the Ubuntu label on it. I love
Whatever it is. It was great. I was tickled.
All right, back to Solus.
Yeah, Solus. So I put it on this thing. Now, this is one of my netbooks. This is notoriously a hard thing to install any Linux on. However, there were some nice surprises and there were some downsides. Number one, it looks really nice. I really like Budgie. I got the Budgie version. It looks really nice. I ran Budgie on this machine before, and I really liked it. And I still really like it. The menus, I went way back to when I last ran this thing. The Brisk menu or something was brand new back then. And the menu and the Budgie system works so much better than it did before. You can type and your 2 keys and you can get most of your apps. All that stuff was working great. But there was some odd stuff. Number one, the default theme that comes with the Budgie desktop doesn't have a light mode. And they've got the switch in the Budgie desktop settings for light versus dark. That does nothing. This confused the heck out of me for a while because I was like, I guess it doesn't have one. I guess it's just broke. And then I was playing around with the other themes and realized that everything all of a sudden went bright. And so that particular theme, the default theme doesn't have a dark, or doesn't have a light rather. It's only got a dark side. Kind of like, Darth Vader or whatever.
Right.
The other thing that was odd, so that was good. That was fine. It was minor. The other thing is they actually shipped with the Broadcom drivers on the ISO. And if you use their driver tool, it tries to install. It does install the driver package. There's only one problem. I was really excited. I was like, finally, somebody shipped the drivers on the thing, and I'm going to be able to switch over to them, and there's going to be no problem whatsoever. I think they're using an old driver package because it didn't compile on the 5.4 kernel this thing ships with. The packages are installed, but the drivers are actually missing. The modules didn't compile. I don't know what's going on there. I followed their instructions. I used their driver tool. Maybe it works better if I actually find an internet connection to plug this thing into, but I just don't have. This doesn't even have an Ethernet jack on it, so it's kind of the last thing I want to do is go mucking around in the basement to find my loose cord and install it on the laptop. But it's pretty. It's great. It has lots of stuff pre-installed on it. I got no faults with it. My brightness keys are backwards, but I know how to fix that, so that's okay. The only other thing, and I'll mention it because Tom mentioned he had trouble at boot posting. I didn't have any trouble booting at post, but when I gave it the whole disk for the installation, and the first time through it failed. And it failed while formatting the ESP partition, which was it seems weird to me, but I just restarted it and it went through the second time. So I don't know what that, maybe it's because my hardware is junk. I have no idea, but I haven't run into that one before. But you know what? I love Solus. I love checking it out because they're just kind of a little bit different from everybody else. And it's good to get a look at what they're actually doing.
Hey, Dolphin, could I ask you something?
Yeah.
Is it an eMMC drive?
It is.
Solus will auto mount it as an SD card, and then it won't be able to write the ESP. So that was why it failed.
Yes, and so it must not try to reformat it the second time through because
it just kills it.
Yeah, so I know how to prevent that. If anybody cares, all you got to do is turn off the systemd generator for mounts, and you don't have that problem anymore. But whatever. I think the who is it? The Hujiflash. It's the anyway. You just turn off the booting. You just turn off the auto mount while you're running the install. You can do it through not UDisk. What is it? UDev rules too. You can kill the. you can kill it. In fact, if you look at the gparted PK exec startup script, they actually kill, at least in Debian, they actually kill auto mounting while gpart is running and turn it back on when they close. So we do the same trick with our installer. That's why I know we had the same problem when XFCE went 4.14. We had the same freaking problem. Every time we formatted a drive, the system auto mounted it. And
I'm not too familiar with that.
So that's how you do it. In XFCE, we can also kill it in XFCE, but we use the same installer as Antix, and we were having the same problem in Antix. So we figured out, let's just copy what gparted does. So we just kill the whole system and then start it back up when we're done.
Cool.
But why make something that someone's already figured out?
Yes, that is a good thing.
It's so nice looking. I really like Budgie. I really, really like how Budgie looks, honestly. I know it's GNOME kind of, sort of, with GNOME stack and all that stuff in the background, but it looks so nice. So,
I think it's GNOME done right.
It's props. I've always been a Budgie fan. I like it even more now. Honestly, I only ever use Solus Budgie. I've never really used Ubuntu Budgie, so I don't really know what it looks like over there, but I've always just used Solus Budgie.
I've tested them both, and I think Solus has some nice features UI wise, and so does Ubuntu. So yeah.
Yeah, Solus is nice because a lot of people like the stack but don't like the shell. Well, GNOME or Solus kind of gives you the GNOME stack that it's basically the GNOME stack with an alternative GNOME shell. And that's what's nice about it.
The only other thing I played mostly with the Budgie desktop settings because the apps, whatever, they're apps. The system is special really to the Solus universe. Well, Ubuntu too now, but whatever. It started over here, so this is kind of like the mothership in my mind.
Right.
And one of the other things that's kind of weird is I kind of forgot the desktop manager thing was called Raven. So when things told me this changes this in Raven, I was like, "What the heck's Raven?" I couldn't find Raven in the menu, and I was like, "Oh, you idiot! That's the desktop manager thing."
Yeah.
So, but there's another switch in the settings that says, "Hey, let us run the volume up past 150% or up to 150%. I think it is past 100. I think is how it's labeled, and that works in the volume control center thing, and it works in the sidebar that pops out. But the little icon on the toolbar still doesn't go past 100. I've seen that in other distros too, but not one that's usually as tight as Budgie with all its bits and pieces. So that was just kind of strange. But once I figured that out, it wasn't that big a deal to do. It's just felt like you had to open up a bunch of apps to get to that thing to raise the volume up, especially with the pulse audio control. I've been spoiled. The XFCE pulse audio control doohickey has the slider right on it, and it's it's always surprising when XFCE has something somebody else doesn't have, and we're like, oh, we're so old and clunky.
It's very rare that happens.
It's often that it happens. Whisker menu, pulse audio plugin. It's all you need to know.
That's it. That's all.
What do you think of Raven? Do you like that? How it pops out and.
Actually, I kind of like the sidebar pop out thing. Someone else does that too. The Deepin desktop does that.
Yeah, Deepin, yeah.
And actually, dirty word, Windows 10 does that too with the notification panel sliding off to the side. It's kind of turning into some little weird standard kind of deal out there.
Doesn't Mac OS do it too?
I can't tell you.
Does XFCE have that?
XFCE. Well, my panel's on the left and vertical. I don't know what to tell you. There's no pop outs though.
Well, to the macOS comment, yes, it is. There is a notification center in macOS.
It's a pretty common way. It's a pretty common way to have. So off canvas is a thing in websites where you have something that pops in from the side. So it's a good way to have a bunch of functionality not taking up room and then be able to call to it. So I think that's why they do it.
But it's pretty. The themes are nice. The user experience is kind of nice. I wish the Broadcom thing worked a little better out of the box. This isn't a new laptop, and I'm pretty sure it's because the driver package that they shipped with the disk on the image doesn't compile on the kernel they're shipping. That's what it looks like. The driver installer kind of hides the error messages. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit of a novice when it comes to EO package. So I'm good to get something installed and get something listed. I haven't really dug in at the command line just yet. I'm kind of a slave to the GUI in Solus, so it hides that information the same way Ubuntu does. So you don't, if the kernel driver fails, it is kind of weird. It doesn't even tell you that there's a failure. It just, like, everything else happens. All the conflicting drivers are blacklisted. All the other things happen, except the wl.ko module isn't actually built. So that was my only hang up. I really thought someone nailed it with the driver shipping on the disk. There aren't too many of us that do that, and I hope they get that one working, because that would be laudable, because it's silly to ship something that doesn't compile on your kernel.
Yeah, I mean, they're almost there. You're at the finish line there.
It's like 99%. I mean, well, depends how you look at it. It's either 99% or 5, one or the other. It's either almost there or it's a mile away. But it's just the wrong version, I think. And we run into that all the time with our kernels. When you update the kernel, in fact, if you update our kernel, we actually force you to update the Broadcom driver too. So that you have because they never compile unless you update them both.
You guys stray from the normal Debian kernels, so
a little bit. Right now we're not, but give me a week.
Right. All right. Thank you, sir. Vince, good to see you here.
Hi, Dan. Hi, everyone.
How are you? How's Solus?
What's up, Vince?
Very good. I went with Solus Budgie. I spent 2 weeks with it, and it's actually the first time that I've used Solus. I haven't used it in the past because I'd had some reservations about it, and in particular with things like multi-boot, because we're distro hoppers, right? And I'd heard things about package availability. So in my trying it this time around, I really wanted to try and overcome those possible reservations that I had. So the first thing I did before installing it was I'd looked up the instructions on how to get multi-boot going, and I'd found the instructions in the Solus forums from someone, the artist formerly known as Chicken, maybe. So I'd followed those, and I actually had it working quite well, because I'd had like 6 partitions on this disk. But then when I went to edit some things in Grub and try and get Grub to pick up Solus, I somehow balked all of it, and so I had to reinstall everything, and I gave Solus the whole disk when I did that afterwards. I also did plan on trying Solus Plasma, and so I had installed that too. But I found out that when you install Solus over another Solus, it deletes the first Solus's system deboot entry. However, I did manage to edit the system deboot file to get that back. So when I turn the machine on now, if you hold spacebar, it'll show you both entries, which was really cool. One of the criticisms I probably have with Solus is that, first of all, it looks beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful desktops that I've used, and I echo what everyone else has said about that. It's really fast, and I really love that. It's so fast to boot. The Budgie desktop is just really snappy. It's performant. I'd put it probably on par with maybe even XFCE, with sort of how snappy it feels on my potato testing laptop. Now, one of the criticisms I'd have would probably be that they should really try and work on consolidating the system settings. And I get how it's sort of GNOME based. So they've got the GNOME settings, and they've got their own Budgie desktop settings. But I think that a lot of people would get a little bit confused still with that, and if it was all consolidated, to make life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think that's kind of been a long running Budgie issue, if you will.
Yeah, and I get that it's probably a lot of work to do, but I think it should be a priority.
Yeah, I agree.
On the issue with package availability, I suspect that really is a thing of the past now, because I was sort of planning to maybe have to install a fair few snaps and Flatpaks to get the things that I wanted, but I ended up not having to require snaps or Flatpaks at all. I found all the things that I needed actually in the repositories. Granted, I'm just using it for sort of normal everyday stuff like browsing and messaging and things like that. But most of it that I needed was still there. So for any new user, I think that should be fine. I did get one little sort of a hiccup though. There was a weird graphical artifact that I got in the system tray icons. And I posted a little a message of the picture in Telegram, where it looked like as you open up new programs and they have a tray icon, it looks like the tray icon's drawing on top of the last tray icon. So you actually end up with layers of tray icons. I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that. But overall, I would definitely recommend Solus as a new user, especially if you have a machine to dedicate it to. I think you'll find that it just is really impressive in terms of its speed and how well it looks and how well it works.
All right,
Vince, I'm not sure if this applies, but I know that there was a time, and I don't remember what distro I was on with one of the docks that was doing that, where it would double load the dock. I don't know if it's the same type of situation with the icons, especially that you said that you could see a double entry in there now.
Yeah, I did some digging around. I couldn't find anything in the bugs for Solus, nor in their forums. I'm going to see. I have a suspicion it's the workspace switching applet. I'm going to maybe try and get rid of that and see if it still does it. If it doesn't, I might actually go ahead and maybe file a bug report.
What was it double icons for again?
Sorry, you broke up just as you were speaking. Shiki.
Sorry, you said there were double icons of something?
Not double. It was looking like the icons were drawing on top of the last one. So if you imagine it's sort of a layering effect, and you could see just behind one icon the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a compositing sort of issue type thing. But,
So
yeah,
Brian,
anyway. Thanks
Brian.
for that.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
No, I was just saying thanks.
Brian Myers mentioned that in Budgie 11, they're actually going to redo the control panel and incorporate all of the GNOME settings into their panel.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right, Esnix, how are you? And do you have any insights into Solus?
Well, let's see. I tried Solus in a VM, Solus Budgie, and I was impressed. I thought the desktop was gorgeous. Everything just worked the way I would expect, a Windows-like desktop, that metaphor, start button metaphor desktop to work. So I think it would be very comfortable for almost any new user to just jump right in. The Raven, I'm not so sure I see the point of that Raven menu anymore when all the little status icons are right next to the clock, and you can get to all those settings without opening the Raven menu. So other than that, and I know the Raven thing is one of the desktop's leading features. I just don't really see the usefulness so much of it. The rest of the desktop I think was beautiful. Software installed, I could find almost everything I needed, and it just worked. I during the installation, I let it take over the whole disk of the VM, so I didn't have any problems with Grub or EFI or any of that stuff. So I can't really speak to those issues. But that's about it. I enjoyed it.
Excellent. All right, JJ, did you get a chance to test Solus?
So I didn't get a chance to test Solus for the past couple of weeks, but I just did. But to report on what's going on, I just did an extreme distro hop from Ubuntu Mate to Ubuntu Budgie. So I guess I'm tangentially there with a Budgie. So yeah, I was able to figure that out today.
Okay. No worries. Oh, and we have a special guest tonight. Look at this. No camera, Michael.
Well, I mean, right now, yeah.
Okay. Did
Not
you
for
get a
any
chance-
particular reason.
That's fine. We all know what you look like. Any oh, there he is. There he is.
There you go.
Any thoughts on Solus?
I haven't used the latest version, but I do look forward to it. I used the one before that, but I don't know if it counts the same. But I do like Solus a lot. And this is probably the best version, even though I haven't tried it, because I don't really have to try it to know it's the best version because it has plasma. So therefore, good job.
Wow. Somebody mentioned plasma, and Michael shows up.
Well, they do have single click enabled, so there is that.
All right, never mind.
So does Manjaro. Just saying.
Well, I mean, Plasma does that by default, so everybody's wrong inherently,
except for Kubuntu.
Except for Kubuntu because they listen to me.
I'm going to be adding in DoubleClick to my distro.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. It's starting. It's starting.
All right. Those are our thoughts on Solus 4.1. I would like to take a moment and thank all the developers that are on Solus, that are working on Solus, for all of the efforts. It's a huge responsibility and a huge thing to put out a distro. And it is definitely one of the top distros out there. I love Budgie defaults. I love the way it looks. So I appreciate the efforts, and hopefully you can take some of the feedback and maybe, work on it, and it'll just become better, because that's what we're doing it for.
Yeah, and Budgie is a beautiful desktop environment out of the box.
Totally, it's like
Agreed.
GNOME Light but better.
It is, and I've said it before, it is the best, I think, defaults out of the DEs out there. So.
Yeah, I'd say that the only competitor would really be like Cinnamon, but Budgie might still be the best default.
Yep.
I just want hot corners on Budgie. I need my GNOME style expose hot corner.
I think it is a thing, but
yeah. Well, okay, so we have to pick a new distro for the next 2 weeks. And Thomas last week went into coder mode and whipped up a little script for us to do a random distro pick, basically. So what I end up doing is I end up putting a few names in a text file, run the script against the text file, and voila, comes out a random distro out of those choices.
So did you add bleeping computer sounds so it sounds official?
No, I
Not
needed
this
the
time.
bleeping computer sounds, and I needed the matrix falling down. And
I think this is like a loot crate for distros.
So I am going to do that, but I would like to give it to Eric so he can talk about the voting for the distros that he put up on the website.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people found it. We only have 3 votes, and I know one of them is mine, and I think
one of them was mine.
One of them's mine.
There
I
you
was
go.
checking to confirm that if we actually were still doing Solus, and I saw the poll on the right when I was checking it, and I was like, "Ooh, I'll vote."
So I
It
stuck
should be 4 then, because I voted as well.
Oh, I haven't refreshed the page.
Okay.
Is it too late to vote now?
No, so go to the link I put in YouTube or just the Biddle website and look under the distro challenge section. On the right, there's a poll, and those are all from the Discourse forum thread that we have on nominating a distro. And again, like we talked about last week, basically we're just going to look at this list, and whatever's getting the most votes, then Rocco will put that into his anonymizer or randomizer, and from that we can come up with a way to pick a new distro. So there's not enough votes tonight to use it, so let's plan on using this, I guess, 2 weeks from now, maybe.
Yep. Well, I have a few in the text file already that I put in there that we have talked about trying for the last couple weeks. And then we'll use the random generator on that. But if you want to go there and vote for your distro, if you don't see the distro you want us to try on there, you can. There's a Discourse thread that you can request your distro. There's a contact submission form that you can use to send us a distro that you want us to try. I was wondering, Eric, is it possible to add a field there that gives a custom field?
Well,
It's not going to work if it's free text on a poll, just because I think it'll end up, people could put in the wrong thing or misspell it. So it's better if folks could either send the form. So that if you go below there, there's actually a form to submit an idea, and we can add it to the Discourse thread. But basically, I'm just going to keep pulling in from the Discourse thread. So if you send the poll, that'll get added to, or send the form, that'll get added. But Discourse is the best place to do it. And if you don't want to join Discourse for whatever reason, you can submit it through that form, and we'll add it for you. And we'll just keep the list running on here. and keep the poll open, and so folks can just vote on it. And as stuff bubbles up, they'll get added to the randomizer, and we'll go from there.
All right.
Would it be
So
possible?
Wait, I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
Is there a way you can make it so we can vote for multiple distros? Because there's so many of them that
Yes.
it's hard to pick just one. So
Yeah, we can set that as well. So initially I had it set to 3, and then I just wanted to get feedback from people before I put it out that way. So yes, we can open it up, and we can open it up to a certain number.
I think it should be unlimited, to be honest, because there's just
I
so
don't
many.
think it should be unlimited.
No, it's
that
not
would
gonna be
not solve
unlimited.
the problem of trying to pick a distro, because you'd have multiple people picking all of them, and that would just not work.
Well, then
you should let it make sure that I have enough to pick all the plasma ones like 7 times.
What's stopping people from? Is it cookie based or IP based for?
Both.
Oh, okay. So if I were to use like a Tor browser, could
It
I
also
vote
takes
again?
a blood sample. So
Look,
Pizza,
and the
if you
point
really
is-
wanted to go that far to get around it, you're going to get around it. I mean,
Oh,
it's
I
just
know,
it's
I'm
just for
Yeah, this isn't like a voting booth or something. I mean, it's meant to be as simple. And look, we're gonna know if people are gaming it. You know, I mean, if Gecko Linux gets 300 votes,
I thought that got discontinued.
That is just what I was thinking.
Eric, to follow up on what Rocco said, would it be possible to just have a generic other option and then a plain text box underneath to add in?
I will look at that, but I'll tell you for now, the easiest way to do that is if you either want to go to Discourse and nominate it there,
Oh, yeah, no, I understand. I was just trying to figure
right,
out.
or the form itself. And the thing I like about the form is that there's a request for a reason why you think it's interesting, not just because you heard the name of it. Like it would be better if for everyone involved, if you nominate something and say, I think this is interesting because, and then just let us know what that is, because otherwise, and if you want to distro hop and try something because you think it's interesting, go for it. But let's think of it in context of the show itself and all of the people here. Is this something interesting to have 20, 30, 40 people testing for 2 weeks? And ultimately, it all comes down to what comes out of the randomized selection anyway. But this is just instead of Rocco having to sort of cherry pick, this is a more sort of democratic way, I guess, of saying it. And we'll see how it works. And if it, if we have to
see,
adjust
now you
it,
can't blame me. You blame Thomas.
No, you've instituted this, so therefore you're still to blame.
Yes,
No, I can't.
okayed the script.
I can't be blamed for this. I can't be blamed for this. It's Thomas's
where's the
script.
form?
And
Did you audit his code first?
I did actually.
It's on GitHub if you want to see it.
Colin, if
So,
you go down below,
I just meant if he didn't audit, we could blame him.
So could I fork it and
Standby
rig it
pizza.
for-
Standby pizza. What, Eric? You're trying to say
So
something.
Colin asked where the form is. If you go below the poll on the right-hand side there's a submit a challenge idea, and you just fill that in.
In Discourse?
No, on the
In Dis-
website.
So if you go to
post it again.
bigdaddylinux.com/biddle, BD,
I'll post it one more time in the YouTube chat.
you'll get to the page where you see all of the distros we've tried, and you'll also see the vote section and the contact page.
Yeah, and
Just
that's
put it in the
important because everything's there in one place. We're always saying, well, what did we try that? When did we try it? So on the left, you've got the list of all of the things we've tried for the last 2 years. And so you can see, have we done it? How recently have we done it? What version did we do? Links to all of the discourse forums, the shows themselves. So this is empowerment. Everything's there for you.
Now we'll see if Tony can guess.
Okay, so in that vein, that's what the plan is of what we're trying to do. Our itemized list of distros that I put into the random selection text is Fedora Silverblue, Arch Labs, Tramjaro, Nitrix, Calculate Linux, and Clear Linux. Those are the distros that are in the random test. Does anybody want to put any other ones in there before I hit the random generator?
Nutix.
So we're not using the vote?
Hannah Montana.
Wait, didn't you guys already do Fedora Silverblue, or am I?
We did not. We did Fedora. We did not do Fedora Silverblue.
Oh, okay.
And
Silver
Steve,
Blue
for
is
the record,
very different.
Tony tried see if he could coerce the distro out of Rocco earlier today, and it didn't work.
Which one?
You put in all the ones in the voting.
Well,
that we're
the
voting
idea
on.
is to get to the ones that the idea is to make it random, but also to make it fun to try the ones that we want to do, not one that was just randomly selected by one or two people that may not be the most, I don't know, the most fun to talk about or whatever. So we definitely want to take everybody's input. We definitely want to have everybody's vote, but we also want to put up to the top the ones that we want to try the most. So
how about anti-X?
That's why, Esnix, I didn't put in all of them. All right.
Wait, did I say anti-X? It's antics. I'm dumb.
No, it's anti-X.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Oh, I was
may,
right.
may I make a suggestion,
Do it.
Rocco? Now, this suggestion's going to be a little bit out of the blue, especially for me, but since we're talking about distros that have come from wild places, I was thinking along the lines of, I don't know, calculate Linux.
That's already in there.
Well, that's in there. Ricky, you got your wish. It's already in the list of random ones. So if there's no further suggestions, we're going to hit the random generator.
Wait, how about Pure OS?
What about Draugr?
Rocco, just hit the button.
Just have Eric blow the dice, Rocco.
Just
Let's
hit the
roll
button.
these dice.
Okay, I'm afraid to look. I am hitting enter. And it says, because Thomas worded this script so well, it says, this time, the distro is, I need a drum roll, Clear Linux.
Ooh, Clear Linux.
I should have laid
No.
I knew it was going to be Clear Linux.
Oh, really?
Random or
So
alphabetical?
for those that don't trust Thomas's script, I tested this out multiple tens of times, and it does give a random one all the time. It just keeps
Really?
cycling through some, and some of them got twice, some of them went in. So it is definitely a random thing. But
well, yeah, when it came out of the silver blue with that one.
And if you don't trust that, still, it's on GitHub, and I will drop a link here shortly.
All right, so yeah, go ahead.
I had an idea that when we do the picking, where it like pulls through the list, you could run it through a little command line script called No More Secrets, which turns it into like a 1990s style Matrix thing, and then decodes it all. And
but I can't put that on the
liking
screen,
it.
dude.
Wait,
It'll
so
lose the effect.
Does Clear Linux work on like non-AMD systems, or?
It's an Intel thing, so I'd hope so.
It does.
I know.
And
for anyone
did I say
interested,
non-AMD? You know what I mean, right?
So, I don't know. I hear really good things about Clear Linux as far as what it's able to do for you. So it's not a mainstream distro where all the everybody's talking about it. But
have to announce a disclaimer just so everybody's aware. If it is a concern for you, by default, Clear Linux disables CPU mitigations for performance reasons. So if you do want those, you will have to re-enable them yourself. So
shocker, the distro that is made by the company that makes all the problems is the one that turns it off.
it was.
Oh, but also, by the way,
for no reason.
I'm pretty sure
nothing to see here, Michael.
Yeah, it's not because we do a distro and our claim to fame is benchmarks. It has nothing to do with that part.
Live fast, die hard, baby.
I think also Clear Linux has. I think they have telemetry of some kind on by default. You'd have to. I know there was talk about it, but I'm not sure if it's still there. But just FYI, if it is.
So here is the perfect reason of why I wanted this random generator thing, because I highly doubt that us as a group would have picked something like Clear Linux to try. We'd have always went to something like Arch Labs or something, one of the others on the list, and I think that this random thing is perfect.
imagine if it would have landed on Elementary.
Well, Elementary wasn't one of those choices, so it can't land on Elementary yet.
Imagine if it would have landed on like Slackware.
That'd
All
have
right.
been fun.
Do we have a link for Clear Linux that we can post?
I did. I posted.
Oh, you
that
did
in
already?
the
Dan,
YouTube
see, you're
chat
on top of
and
it.
in the Zoom chat.
You are way ahead of me, dude. Way ahead
It
of
was
me.
clearly posted.
Clearly.
Clearly.
You know, this was so much fun that we should make a home game of Biddle.
Get them, dogs.
It's not you, Barb?
Like a Biddle board game?
Pretty
no,
much.
I've been muted. And my dog was barking at deer
Oh, okay.
for 10 minutes.
All right. So we were supposed to have Cassidy James on. Not sure exactly what's going on with that, but we're just going to continue on with the show. If he shows up to talk about the App Center, that'd be great. And if he doesn't, we'll just move on. One thing I would like to bring up, or would like to have a conversation about, is Jason, you made a post in the Discourse forums about being newer to the community. Can you just start us off on that conversation and just basically give us a synopsis of what you posted?
Well, sure. So basically what I posted in there was basically a thank you. Being a new person to Linux, I was looking for avenues to learn about Linux. And, I did my research and I stumbled across a couple, sites like it's FOSS at the beginning to give me an idea where I wanted to start. And I ended up, downloading Linux Mint from there and testing that out. Then I wanted a more involved way of getting into Linux. So I started doing research on podcasts. And I came across, a couple podcasts. One of them would be, Big Daddy Linux, and of course also Destination Linux. It's kind of funny that Michael's here. But the big thing that I posted on there was that, like, for what you guys do for the community as a whole, it's for Linux, like these type of avenues where we can get together and just have a conversation about Linux, learn about Linux from each other. If somebody's got an issue, someone brings it up, somebody's able to help them solve it live here and this, or whether it be this, Telegram, Discourse, whatever. And so basically the post was, it doesn't matter what operating system you're using, whether it's Windows, whether it's Mac, whether it's Linux. The big thing that pulls you into something that, like that pulls me into something that's new, is a community. And when I first started out, I got nothing but help from everybody in this community, the Big Daddy community. I asked a lot of questions in the Telegram group, a lot of here on this show, in the Discourse. Eric was very big at answering my questions. So was Frank, or Bill, I guess I should say, except many other people. So I gave a big thank you to the community and to Rocco for holding these the show, and the Linux show, excuse me, the Linux Spotlight, which I really appreciate, is that show, because I got to meet, sort of quote unquote, meet the people in the community, and get a better sense of where they come from and what their background is. So the whole basic rundown of that post was thanking all of you and Rocco for putting on those two shows.
Well, I think it's extremely important because there's so many people in this community that are willing to go above and beyond to help people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many times, countless times, that you go into Telegram and somebody is there helping somebody else out. Somebody asks a question, and they're 99% of the time there's somebody trying to pitch in to help them out.
Yep.
Eric is done that 1,000 times, and that includes not just in Telegram, but that includes on their websites, on whatever they have going on, or their Discourse forums. I mean, there has been so many places and things that he has helped out in the Linux community for technical places, like I said, setting up a Discourse forum or setting up a website for somebody that nobody really hears about all the time. They don't always realize that that's going on in the background, but it is. Dan Simmons is constantly working in the Telegram group, helping people. Not only does he do that, but he also helps on the Ubuntu team in that area. And it's just amazing. Chicken, I don't think, ever sleeps. I mean, I can go in there at any point in time and say, hey, what about this? And somehow he's up. I mean, it was 7 in the morning for me. So it had to have been 4 in the morning for you when I started talking the other morning, and you're up and awake. And so I wonder why you're tired, dude, because the body does need sleep. I'm just saying. But the bigger
It'll
picture,
live.
the bigger picture is there are so many cool people in this community, from Steve to Colin to Dave, Tony. Just go down the list. Barbara is always trying to look out to talk to people and help out. All I can say is I really appreciate every single person in this community, because it's everyone making that community up that appeals to guys like Jason who come along and see that. Super important. Just saying.
Yep, definitely.
It's
I mean, that's the biggest thing that's going to drag somebody into something that's new is what they see, the interactions they see. You go into, like, initially I had some issues with I was looking at I think another one of these the BDLL shows were talking about I think it was the Arch community in the forums, and how sometimes those guys can be a little negative, but because they expect higher things from the people that are trying to use their distributions of Linux, because they're they're nuts and bolts. You got to build them yourself type thing. Obviously, that's the reason I didn't go into that way. I went with Linux Mint. It's a whole lot already built and easy to use, so I can learn from it. But seeing that, and you don't want people that are getting their first impressions of Linux going to see that kind of negativity in any group, any forum, any conversation or whatever. Keep it positive. Just like you guys did when I first started. I asked all the questions. You guys were okay. Well, this is where you can go. It's just what you do. Here's the answer to that question, whatever the case may be. So that is the biggest thing to bring people into the community, is to continue that positive attitude.
Barb, go ahead.
It's much better than it used to be. And, you always are going to get some of those people, and they seem to be less and less of them, who it's like they're distro snobs or something. They have well, I know how to do this and you don't, then you must be some sort of a schlep or whatever it is. But I think we're getting less and less of that, because there are more people who are willing to help. And it depends. Like, if you go to the Arch community, yeah, I'm sure you're going to find some real cranky people. But I think it also depends on which community you're looking at. That also makes a difference.
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't send a newbie to Arch.
Well,
Yeah.
Barb, that's because you don't run Arch.
No.
Those of us that do.
Well,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Right.
I already spent I've paid my dues with that stuff. I just wanted to work.
Arch with plasma.
By the way,
Arch with gnome.
Oh, ew. I need my giant steak.
Hey, Steve, all I can say is Vince behaves in this community, dude. I don't know what he does in other chats or other communities. I mean, but he always behaves here.
There was
Send
a
out
comment
Steve.
that he
Don't
said
talk to Steve.
you have to go back up in the chat to see what I was talking about.
I see that.
I'm of the belief that there are people that are interested in Linux, and if we can put out more positive content, Biddle's a good example. I'll throw in Destination Linux Network. I'll throw in, some other folks out there. If folks can find good resources and friendly people from the start, I think they're much more likely to give it a try and to stick with it than they are if they find someone who's either giving the wrong information or who is negative. And that Google's going to send them to Reddit, or Google's going to send them to places that they may not find the best resources or the most friendly people. And so I think it's important when all of us are making content and getting things out there that we try to tie back. I mean, I know personally for myself, even having been a long time Linux user, I didn't engage in the community because that's all I saw was the negativity. And so when I found, my road in was Michael through This Week in Linux, and then Destination Linux, and then Rocco and Biddle. And I mean, this is my home now, right? This is and it isn't about needing to necessarily learn how to use Linux. It's finding people that are friendly and that I can actually engage with in a meaningful way. And Jason's feedback when he posted that, it was just like, yes, this is exactly what I've been talking about, 100%. So, I mean, I was thrilled to see it. I know other people were as well. If you haven't read it, I'll link to the post, the discourse post in YouTube chat. But yeah, this community, it's special. We all know it's special. It's not unique, but it's also not commonplace to have a group of people like this, of varying backgrounds, of varying interests, and it's very special. And Rocco, so like I said in the thread, thank you for doing this and putting it together, because it matters. It makes a difference.
Well, just we put it together, but it's as the community, it grows and continues on. So I think that I don't know. We said it in the earlier show that it's not just about being positive, but it's about showing that you enjoy using Linux and not just, evangelizing Linux just because of evangelizing it. When you show somebody by example of how you're acting when you're using Linux, or when you're, saying how great this feature is in Linux, that goes a long way when people are on the outside looking in saying, hey, and I don't know, make them curious about it by not just saying, positive things about Linux and glossing over some of the maybe not so cool things about Linux, where, there are drawbacks sometimes, depending on what you're doing. If it's gaming, there is some drawbacks. If you want certain proprietary software, there is some drawbacks. But just being positive about it and showing your example of, hey, this is what I love. So,
well, Jason's initial post before this was, I want to make the switch, but how do I do this? Getting away from these programs I use and the operating systems I use. And, my feedback was, don't think you have to be 100% committed. Do the things you can do in Linux, enjoy them, take it for what it is. Maybe eventually you'll learn how to do these things in a different way. But if you need to get something done, go back into Mac OS, go back into Windows.
I love that answer, dude. That
was
was spot on, that answer. Yep.
Use what works for you.
You heard it here first, folks. Use Windows.
Hey, that's what works for you.
We get so often we get down on Windows quite a bit. We had how many hours have we been together today? When you think about it, Jason, we never left the first.
Right?
Wait,
show
I gotta
early.
explain. So, Biddle Europe was at 3:00, and it ended at 5:00, and we always talk after the show. So I think I was there till like 5:30. 5:35, something like that. And I left and I said, hey, I'll see you later. I'll be back when the regular Biddle's on. So at like 7:40, something like that, I come back. I go to start the meeting room and I can't because it says it's already started. And I'm like, what is going on here? This has never happened before. I'm like, why is this? So I do it again and it says the same thing. And I you know what? I'm just going to join the meeting from the Zoom link, like the Big Daddy Leg Zoom link. And I get there, and these guys are still on there talking from the Europe show.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
And I had just got done saying that to Jason. I said, "What?" Jason. I said, "Watch. Wouldn't it be funny if Rocco shows up back in his own meeting room and we're still here?" And 2 seconds later, they go, "There he is." He comes back. That's the thing I was starting to say. A lot of the conversation we were talking about was not just Linux, but talking about Windows. And yeah, we do sound harsh on Windows because of the problem. And a lot of that, I think, is because of the passion for Linux. But the one thing that I've noticed when you come back from an observation standpoint is, yes, if you see discussion about Windows, it's usually about the issues that are being had with Windows. It's not about the users. Where on the other case, where you see somebody discussing that may be more of a Windows user, they're talking not just about Linux, but they're talking about the people. And it's not always in a fun manner, derogatory or whatever. I saw one stream where, they say, oh, they must be a bunch of idiots over there because they believe in this, and pardon the phrase, and it's not as bad as some things. But the point is I almost take that as, I wonder if there's just a little bit of jealousy going on there or something, because this has grown as such a wonderful community of people and friends. And that's the thing we've said about many times, is the friendships that have come out of this and the fun we have. And I don't think I've ever come across any sort of a Windows live stream where people get together like this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong or if anybody else has, but it is truly a community, even though they try to say it's not, and it's they just don't know because they don't experience it.
Right.
Joe, to your point, I think there are a few small communities around Windows that are pretty prominent. A few that come to mind would probably be like one that comes to mind is the Windows Central people. People have like a podcast that releases weekly, and they have a Q&A section that they get from the people who watch in the background.
But I bet you there's
just
an
like
as large.
there's so
Well, I mean, as far
but like how Linux has so many variations in many different forms. There are many different communities for certain audiences. Ask No Show is a very good example of people who want to ask questions live, and also those who want to actually interact in a chat room. There's JB, there's Biddle, there's Destination Linux Network, and there are many others that I probably don't know about or haven't heard of that could also come to the rise as well.
Well, it's funny is when I first saw Rocco and Rob, I mean, you see these two very calm, easy, soft-spoken personalities talking. And you guys, if correct me, Rocco, you guys were doing challenges, if I remember right, in that at one point too.
Yep.
And that's what really made it fun and interesting to watch. That was, your take on the distros back then, and it spiked in interest. And even like I said, when you did your very first live stream with this, and you said, "Well, I'm going to open it up," and I mean, I'm not opposed to speaking in front of a group of people, but I always said it was different when you come on here. And I remember literally like almost shaking when I come in there. I wanted to go in because I wanted to kind of see what it was about and meet you and meet people with this. And I look at where it is now. How many years is it? I don't know if it's 3 or 4 that we've been doing this.
It should be. I started the channel in 2016, so it was December of 2016 when Destination Linux started, and so it would be January 2017.
Okay. So, I mean, that's, that time has passed so fast. I mean, it's, right now we still even go back to when you made your prediction for the year and all that. I mean, it's all that stuff. It's just fun memories of that kind of thing.
I don't know what you're talking about, Joe.
Yeah, it's probably right there with your Unity video too. So
yes, that's exactly where it is, Joe. In the bin.
Yeah.
Michael, sorry, you were going to say something earlier.
It was probably some kind of dad joke.
It probably was.
Predicted that.
I know this is Biddle, and it's a little self-serving to mention Destination Linux Network, but I think that's sort of born from this same atmosphere, the same thought, and so I know that we can be very technical and we can make it hard for new people to understand, but I think we also tried our best to invite people, to engage people, to answer questions, to and it runs the gamut, right, from way super technical all the way down to like, what's a desktop environment,
Yeah, it's nice to have multiple communities that people know they can go to and ask questions that they might consider stupid questions, but the people who are receiving those questions don't care whether they consider it stupid or not. It doesn't matter because there isn't anybody looking at the questions as being stupid, because it depends on your experience. Like whatever question you ask, it could be either stupid or smart depending on who's hearing it. So in my opinion, there's no way to even classify that, because otherwise I could ask a question that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I asked a question on a podcast with Ryan about hardware that I felt that question was stupid. And he, at the end of it, he was like, "Oh, that's a great question." I was like, "Oh, really? Okay. Here's what I thought when I said this." So the question was basically, what's the difference between optical mouse and a laser mouse? And he goes through this list of all these different things about like breaking it down. And after he was done, I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess that was valuable." And he goes, "Yeah, that was a great question." I was like, "Oh, okay." When I said it, immediately I thought, "Wow, I'm stupid. I just asked, what's the difference between light and light?"
That is a perfect example of a great question that most people would not ask.
Yeah. The only stupid question is the one that never gets asked, truthfully.
There you go.
The very first time I spoke with Ryan online, he says, and my wife was in the room, and he says something like, "Wow, Dolphin, he's so whatever, because he was kind of a fanboy back then. Kind of still a fanboy. He's the most lovable fanboy on the. He's the most lovable fanboy on the internet. But he's like, "Oh, I love that dolphin guy, and he's such a regular person." And my wife's like, "You're a regular person," and it's just been kind of legendary since then. And you know what? This group is like full of regular people, and I know you guys don't think you're regular, and your spouses probably are pretty sure you're not regular,
right?
But it is, and it's like, because not everybody in the real world is mean to each other all the time, and this group's not mean to each other all the time. Do we get irritated sometimes? Yeah, everybody gets irritated sometimes.
Michael.
And our whole community over at MX Land exists because they didn't want to go anywhere else when Memphis disappeared, because everybody else was mean, and we're trying not to be mean. So, and we're growing, and we're everywhere. You know how many YouTube streams and live streams and chat rooms and everything else, and
Distro Watch, and
even Reddit's not too horrible. Well, never mind.
It depends on
what topic
depends
you're
on
talking
where.
about.
Yeah, it depends on where. It just depends on where in Reddit. I also think that I'm one of the few people who would defend the Arch IRC and stuff, because it's 50-50. But
and the truth comes out.
Okay.
I wandered in there one time. It
used to be a part of Arch. And I used to contribute to the Arch IRC a lot. And it was in the time period that I was there, it wasn't that bad. And then I kind of left and came back, and it was a little weird. So there was at least there was a time it wasn't that bad.
Can we just agree that IRC is a terrible form of
How dare you? You need to be banned. I'm kidding.
It's terrible and needs to die.
How dare you too? Except for, to be fair, it is.
IRC is good for live content, yes, because you can see the context.
There's an XKCD cartoon about IRC users, and it is fantastic. They go from chatting on the internet. By the time they're done, they got one guy left on IRC because it's configured the way he wants, and it's like on a space station someplace. It is. Go Google it. It's great.
I think that's about as many people as we have in the Biddle IRC.
I reason.
Yeah, the
IRC.
There is a Biddle IRC, but like nobody's in it.
You'll find a few of those.
Telegram.
Come on now.
Come on, just.
The only way you get IRC people now these days is just to bridge it with Discord or bridge it with.
And that looks really hacky, dude. I do not like the Telegram groups with the IRC link.
It looks bad.
Or you can have
I personally think that IRC should die. IRC should die, and Matrix should replace it, because it's basically all of the good things about IRC, which there's only a few, without any of the bad things of IRC.
No, I think IRC is a fantastic protocol. It's just dated. They haven't updated it since like the 70s.
The only reason I use IRC is for live streams, e.g. Twit.
I think IRC is great, like in itself. I think it's just misapplied. It's just not used in good places.
It hasn't changed since the 70s because it was born perfect.
Although you are.
All right, fair enough.
Speaking of perfect, I must know, is an unused stool that costs $9 a good deal if you don't use it?
It is used. Don't lie.
Oh gosh!
It's
and
called
the stool has entered the BDLL.
In fact, the stool is perfect, just like IRC.
It's an inside joke.
I'm really sorry I'm not
Linux
downstairs because I'd show off my stool right now. I have
Michael's got a doggy.
My wife
go get my stool.
Got the stool.
Adam,
Michael,
did you have something you wanted to talk about?
Your stool right now.
Yeah,
well, Usenet was perfect, and it died.
Yep.
Okay,
Adam, did you have something you want to talk about?
Somebody said I did. Yeah.
Okay, so hold on, stand by on that thought. I want to get to what you're going to talk about, but it doesn't look like Cassidy James is going to make it tonight. So I do want
to drag him out of the hole.
No, he obviously has a good reason for not being here. So, but I do want to mention the App Center that the guys from Elementary are working on. So it's a Indiegogo fund and it's called App Center for Everyone. They are looking to get funds together so that they can get the group that is going to work on the project together, all in the same room in Colorado for a week to work on making the App Center better. Some of the things they're working on for the App Center is and sorry if I don't get everything perfect. I didn't make a script for this, and I was going to rely on Cassidy James for all the details. But basically what they're trying to do is they are trying to base the App Center on Flatpak apps so that the back end will be installing Flatpak apps for reasons like privacy, so that because what happens is when you install an app on the elementary, just like any other distro, it has access to whatever's on the system. It doesn't need to ask for any other permission on the system because it already has basically sudo access. And what they're trying to do is rewrite the App Center so that it doesn't allow apps like just say a wallpaper changer app to have access to your system to for security reasons. Everything would be sandboxed. They're redoing this not only for elementary OS, but so that it can also be implemented in other places and other distros. They're also working on a single account for saving your credentials for buying apps, or the ones that not buying them, but donating to the apps paying for the apps that you want to pay for. There's a lot of things going on. They have a goal of $10,000 to get everybody out in this place for a week. They already have $7,545. So they're really close to making this. There's 29 days left. It just went up the other day. But I would say that this is a worthy thing to donate to. If you're looking to contribute anywhere in Linux and you say, hey, how can I contribute? If you are able and you want to contribute, please go to the link. I don't know if anybody posted it or not, but but go there and check it out. Read it for yourself. See what you think. And then make a decision if you want to donate to it. But I suggest, if you can, to donate.
I'd also like to make a note that anything that doesn't get used for the sprint gets put back into the project. So it's not like they just go out and buy themselves cake.
Right.
They've declared that at the end of it, it still goes into App Center development. It still goes into funding the devs. So
are you saying the cake is a lie?
There's also a video that Daniel Foray put out on exactly what they're doing, exactly what the idea is, and what they're working on. So on the page itself, you can watch the video and then decide for yourself.
I think it's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up. And I'd also like to say I think Dolphin would probably agree with me that why are they going to a sprint when they have IRC?
Because why not?
But I think it's awesome.
But seriously, it's a good idea.
Anytime that you can get together face to face and work on a whatever it may be, project or whatever, it's only gonna be a good thing.
Totally.
Face to face,
you're not starting from
collaboration is
Arch.
way better. Yeah, exactly. But face to face collaboration is definitely the best way to do it.
Yeah.
It's always more beneficial than, dare I say it, IRC.
Although Shikin mentioned that it wouldn't go to cake. Would it go to beer as in free as in beer, which is what the Linux joke is?
Nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it, JJ. Nailed it. All right. Okay. So again, check the link out. See if it is something that you would like to donate to. If you can donate, please donate. Okay, on to
they're gonna add snaps later.
Grubs.
I'm gonna preface this.
Do it.
So we've all heard of Stadia, and
yes,
that was a big launch, and the idea of online game streaming. The preface here is that it doesn't work on Linux yet, but I do think that they will eventually have support for it. I'm not a huge gamer, but I think the idea of streaming games is interesting. We know that Stadia's had some misses in terms of what games they have available, and it's been a little slow for them. So NVIDIA has come out with an option, and our friend Adam Grubbs has had a chance to look at it. And so I know this isn't Linux specific, but in the idea of game streaming and the idea that it probably will be available for Linux at some point, I just thought it was an interesting topic. And so, Adam, tell us about GeForce Now.
Okay, first I'll start with the NVIDIA guys did say that their target is by the end of Q1 to bring it to Chrome browsers, so that would bring it to Linux. So there is some hope.
Yay, Google dominance.
Yep. Hey, if it works, it works. So yeah, I've had a chance to try it, and I even spent the money to go ahead and subscribe to it because it's really just that good. GeForce Now, pretty great service. Obviously not for everyone because not everyone's going to have the best connection. I get it. If you have potato internet, it's fine. We're not arguing about that. So the idea with GeForce Now is different than Stadia in the sense that with Stadia, you have to purchase your games from Google and Google has your games or whatever, right? But with GeForce Now, you're basically renting a thin client Windows machine in the cloud, and you can play your existing Steam games, your existing Epic games, Blizzard games, and Uplay games. Now, it's not every game because they have to have licenses to actually do this. So I think right now they have roughly 500 games, which is way more than Stadia's.
I was going to say, which is
24.
489 more than Stadia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a significantly much larger, like a way bigger library. So just as an example of a few games that I'm able to play on the service, League of Legends is on there, Skyrim, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Borderlands 3, World of Tanks, Guild Wars 2, Division 2, Witcher 3. There's a lot of like big name games on there that either can run on Linux but not the best, or will never run on Linux, or maybe they run on Linux today and not tomorrow, as in the case of League. But there are a lot of multiplayer games on there. There are a lot of single player games on there, and it is spectacular. The video quality, like the actual video stream, is a much higher bit rate for the resolution than Stadia. Stadia has a 4K bit rate, like a 4K resolution stream on Chromecast, but the bit rate is around 35 megabit, which at 4K is not the best. So you do get a fair bit of macro blocking and things like that when the connection starts to hit a little bit of a snag. GeForce Now is currently 1080p only in terms of the stream resolution, but the stream is also at 35 megabit at 1080p, so you get a much higher quality stream than you would on something like Stadia. That also means that the data cap requirement, the data usage is much higher than Stadia. So that can affect people as well. But the other advantage is the NVIDIA stuff is much more powerful in the current state compared to a single Stadia instance. So the graphics quality, like the actual graphics settings in the games, are much higher on GeForce Now than they are on Stadia. So textures are higher, frame rates are more consistently higher. So GeForce Now generally targets 1080p 60, though there are a few games, I think Fortnite is one of them, that can go up to 120 frames a second if you have those monitors. So it's a pretty quality stream. The latency for me, now I'm full disclosure, I'm about 30 miles away from Atlanta, and I'm pretty sure there's a node in Atlanta. So I'm pretty close to the data center. But I have actually less latency on GeForce Now than I do on Stadia, to the point where even like cursor movements are almost 1-to-1. Like they're very, very close. And
how does that play out, Adam, on a game that requires that, like Call of Duty?
Play out. I see what you did there.
Call of Duty was absolutely no problem at all for me. Again, remember, I'm not that far away from a data center. So if you're 100 miles, maybe 200 miles away, might be a little different story. But as far as the latency goes for me, I didn't have any problems playing competitive games. I didn't have any problems playing single player games. And The other advantage over Stadia for a lot of people is that since it uses your existing Steam and et cetera libraries, you play with the people who are already on Steam, Battle.net, et cetera. You don't have to play with just the people who are on Stadia. So you have
That's pretty awesome.
you have a much larger pool of people to play with.
So there's a group of friends that I already have on Battle.net that I play with. I can continue playing with them.
Yeah. Yep. You just launch and they're on your friends list. They're right there. Everything's the same.
Now, one thing I'm interested in is Discord has a feature where you, like for COD, for some games like COD, for example, you can send an invite for the game through Discord. Does that work with GeForce Now? Hello, Cassidy.
So if you're logged into the instance, it might show up in your Battle.net notification. But if you're not in the instance, probably not. They do have Discord rich presence stuff, so that's kind of neat. But yeah, I don't think that would work. Yeah.
The obviously the bottom line, they have a free version. What's the price, Adam?
Yeah, so the free version, you have to wait in line for an instance to be open. Depending on the time of day, you could wait as little as 5 minutes and as long as an hour. At least right now. I mean, if the interest dies down or goes up, that'll vary. So you have to wait in line, and you're limited to a 1 hour session. Now, there's no limit to the number of sessions you can have in a day, other than the fact that there's only so many hours in a day. But you're only limited to that 1 hour. That's for the free version. So really, if you already own a game on Steam or you already own a game on wherever else, and you just want to see, hey, is this going to work on my connection? Is this going to work on my device? The free option's great. But if it does work and you do want to keep it, then you can pay right now. The founders thing, as they're calling it, is $4.99 a month. And that gets you no wait time, a 6-hour limit, and access to RTX ray tracing hardware on RTX games. And the first 3 months
I'm going to need
free.
more than 6 hours.
Oh yeah, could have fooled me. But yeah, so it's a really good value. Now they'll probably raise the price from $4.99 likely to $9.99. But even if you think at $4.99 is the math that I did, 5 years of that is $300. So for the price of like a 2060, you can have 5 years of a top-end cloud gaming PC.
Now, plus you're not paying extra for games. Like you paid $129 for Stadia, and you're paying whatever the amount of price for the game.
Yeah, and so also, if there's a Steam sale or any other sale, you can take advantage of that because you don't buy through NVIDIA, you buy through Steam, you buy through Battle.net, you buy through wherever.
So there's no setup cost to get hardware or whatever to do this. You just need to have a computer that can run their service, and that's it.
Yeah. So right now it's Windows, Mac, Shield TV boxes, and Android phones. Any of those, and you're good to go. Once they bring it to Chrome OS, anything that has a Chrome browser, you'll be able to launch right there. And if you do the free, there's no cost for you to try it out or anything. And if you're fine with just, hey, I just want to play for 20 minutes a day, I don't want to invest in a huge gaming rig that I'm only going to play casually, then the free version's great because you can just buy your cheap games or buy whatever games and then play them however you want for for an hour.
Rocket League.
Rocket League is on there.
I'm thinking, Michael.
Rocket League is on there.
Hey, so Adam, I think
I thought you were boycotting.
Hello.
Well,
Pizza.
right now, yeah.
Yeah. So Adam, to your point about the price, I think I just looked over the grid, and I think it said that it's $4.99 Founders Edition for 12 months.
Correct. Yeah, and then after that, they're likely to bring it to $9.99.
Well, they're probably going to bring it up sooner, but you got 12 months of.
So the way they're doing the founders thing is I think they said they have currently capacity for 600,000 users, and after they reach a certain arbitrary number of users on the founders plan, then the rest of people will get the regular price.
Okay, so you get 12 months.
Get locked in that rate for 12 months.
Okay, so if it blows up, you still pay for that $5 basically, and then everybody else gets the newer price, but you get to stay in for at least 12 months total.
At least for 12 months, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's actually 15 months because you get 90 days free
Yeah,
before
correct.
that
That's
kicks
right.
in.
Oh, nice.
Way to go, Dave.
Yeah, they do give you 90 days.
Oh, thank you.
So
I mean, Team Green's terrible, but this is good.
hey, I don't see AMD doing this. Just saying.
That's because they have good hardware.
Oh, wow. We don't need the good hardware.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, I mean, not yet.
That's true.
But
it's
what Susu's thinking about right now.
It's a pretty spectacular service. The quality, the stream quality is better than Stadia. The latency is better than Stadia. The game selection is better than Stadia.
It's the streaming
it didn't come
games
with a
done right.
controller. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
being able
really
to
good.
use your own games on Steam
Yep.
I mean, I think that was one of the biggest challenges with Stadia for a lot of people is I have to buy the game again, and am I going to
Correct,
be able
yeah.
to keep it? And like you said, I can already play with the people I already am friends with, and this solves a lot of I think the problems that Stadia had. And then when it's in Chrome.
Yeah, once it's in Chrome, you're good to go. And there are popular games on there. There's Fortnite that's on there. Apex Legends is on there. League of Legends.
But can you
Rocket
imagine
League,
what this means for Linux once it comes to Linux, once it comes to Chrome? This opens up so many doors, and that's why I was so excited about Google Stadia when it came out, because if it came to fruition what it appeared it could be, it would be an awesome thing for Linux. And I look at this and I see the same exact thing, only it's even more exciting. So
Yeah, this sounds way better, and this is kind of what I wanted Valve to do anyway. So I hope Valve still does it, but I think this is probably the best, closest, at least at the moment, because it's essentially if you can still use all the same Valve games and everything, and you don't have to worry about like the quality and stuff. Like that's awesome.
It's what I was hoping Stadia would do, which is to spur the interest and then see who else comes out and competes and what they can do. And that
Well, GeForce
competition.
Now has been around for quite a while in like different iterations. They tried to do like a soft launch where they were going to like pay by the hour and all this, and they actually listened to people like, hey, this isn't going to work, and they're like, okay, we'll go back to the drawing board. And like they've been around. I think it's been around for about 4 years now, and like they've listened the entire time to their beta testers, to the people about what they want, how they, what they're looking for in the service, what they're willing to pay, all these things.
I want every time my bill's due to pop up a little message that says insert coin.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
Well, it sounds exciting, and I can't wait, dude. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I might even try it on
It's
that
good.
other operating system.
You should. It's good.
All right, Cassidy, are you here, brother? You got your audio on?
I am actually here this time. I don't know if my audio is any good at all.
It is there, so that's okay.
So, quick, funny story. I'm in the middle of moving, and I was literally carrying a couch, and I got a calendar alert saying, Big Daddy Linux is live. I'm like, oh, crap. So I finished loading the car up, rushed over to my in-laws' house where we're like staging some stuff for the move, and then realized I didn't have any headphones or my laptop. So I borrowed somebody's Bluetooth headphones that I've never used before. But I'm here on my phone, and I made it in, just in time.
Just in time? Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to be over time, but I'm more than happy to give you whatever time you want to do to talk about it. So tell us about, I didn't know if you were going to show up, so I kind of did a generalization, but I would really like to hear from you why it is you guys are deciding to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's we're doing an Indiegogo crowdfunder to host a 1-week in-person sprint in Denver from March, I believe it's 12th to 19th. We chose Denver because I live in Denver. A couple other people who are planning to attend are in the Denver area, so it's a good kind of centralized location for us. And then we're shipping everybody else out here to meet in person. Plus, there's a cheap venue or a free venue actually that we can use for the week. But the idea is, a couple of years ago, we built out App Center to be a pay-what-you-want app store for elementary OS. And over the last couple of years, that has worked really well. Like developers have been really happy, users have been really happy. Elementary, like we at Elementary have been happy with it. But the problem is, I mean, a big user-facing problem is that you have to re-enter your payment details every time, and that was because we were leaning, we were erring on the side of being more secure, more privacy-focused, not collecting any card details anywhere. But obviously, we know that's a pain. Like, we know it's a pain to retype your credit card and stuff. And it's not great for developers because it also means that they can't, it's harder for them to get paid as well. People were skipping payments just for the convenience factor, not because they actually wouldn't have paid if they could. So that's a big part of it. With this new infrastructure that we're building out, the plan is to have saved payment tokens securely encrypted on your device so that it's all secure. We're not collecting any payment details still, but it's way easier to one-click purchase an app, which is going to be awesome. And then the other big thing is Flatpak. So we've been in discussion with the guys at Flatpak and FlatHub, and there's this new technology we kind of discussed with them before they rolled out, and then they built it into Flatpak, which is called a Flatpak authenticator. And the idea here is that you can have some method. The technology is actually agnostic to what the method is, but you can have some method of authenticating a Flatpak download. An example that was given is Red Hat could have some sort of Flatpak license that is tied into their corporate licenses for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. The authenticator, which is a separate app, actually determines what the method of authenticating is. So for Elementary, for App Center, we could move our pay what you want system into a Flatpak authenticator. What's really cool about that is that means any system running Flatpak can, when they go to they can add the Elementary Flatpak remote, go to download an Elementary App Center Flatpak app, and get that authenticator, get that pay what you want dialog. So that it means that we can have people who are targeting App Center actually ship their apps to Fedora and Ubuntu and Arch and anything that runs Flatpak, and it's the exact experience you'd expect with the pay what you want download. But it's on any OS, so it's really cool. It's this kind of unprecedented thing. Like, yes, you can add your Flatpak remote anywhere, but you can't really easily, in an integrated fashion, contribute directly to those developers. So that's what we hope to build out.
Yep. And you said with the new payment method, there's you're not going to be taking any user data or anything. Is there any anything to do with is there a possibility for different payment types? Is there an option for PayPal or anything like that?
Bitcoin.
So we hear cryptocurrency a lot. We hear PayPal a lot. Right now we're using Stripe as our payment processor. And so they just do payment cards, debit, credit cards. They're supported across most, I guess not most, a ton of countries. And their payment methods and everything. There are people who have a PayPal account that don't have a debit card or don't have a credit card. I don't know, especially for version 1. I don't know that we're going to address that right away. But when we're designing it, I think that's definitely something we'll keep in mind: is can we make the payment backend more pluggable so we could add other payment backends in the future? But right now, Stripe has been really, really good for us because they actually handle the developer split for the payments. So because we're hosting the infrastructure, we're hosting build servers, we're doing a lot of marketing work, we do a standard, like you see in Google Play or Apple Store, a 30-70 split. So 30% of the purchase covers the payment processing and the hosting and everything, and then 70% goes to the developer. Stripe handles that all automatically, which is really nice. It means we don't have to even literally keep a record of that. It just happens at the time of purchase. So there's more questions there with if we do PayPal, we have to either see if PayPal's API splits payments in that way automatically, or if that means there's more programming on our server side we have to do. So I'm not sure. Something I'll talk to web developers about for sure, though.
Yep. All right. So this, I guess basically what I'm asking is the goal to, in that week, get this done, or is it just basically a start to it?
So we've actually started a lot of the work already. The client side, the App Center client side, the part that faces users on Elementary OS, supports Flatpak today. We've rolled that work out. So there's a lot of that work that we've kind of been preceding into the OS. The actual sprint is going to be focused on the authenticator part and converting our existing App Center backend, the web backend. Instead of building Debian packages, we're going to be converting it over to build and host Flatpak packages and then tie into the authenticator. So that's the scope of work which we plan to mostly start and finish, at least an MVP that week. There's some other related pieces that we can work on, since we're all in a room, if we get through all of that work. But the goal is to have an MVP of a Flatpak-based App Center backend that ties into an App Center repository and the authenticator.
All right, so you have this Indiegogo page, and you have like multiple different tiers.
Yeah.
But you added a tier too since the release of the
We
campaign.
did.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so we have, I forget the exact dollars, I don't have it in front of me, but there's, I think, a $5 thank you. There's a tier for putting your name in the source code in a backers file. And then there's a mug and stickers, which comes with then putting your name in the source code as well. Then there's a sweatshirt for $100, which comes with everything before that besides the mug. But then people were saying, well, I want a sweatshirt and I want a mug. So we're like, well, we'll just put another tier up. So we put a $130 tier to help make sure we're covering the costs of the merch plus raising enough money for the actual event. So that one's been pretty popular too.
Yep. Well, I think it's awesome that you guys are getting together, and I wish you the best with it because I don't think there's anything besides good that can come out of it. So.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, even if people don't use or like elementary OS, like whatever, that's fine, that's your right. Everything we're doing is open source, and actually a really cool discussion we've been having is with some folks at FlatHub. They're like, we're a little jealous of App Center. Like, we want what you guys have for App Center, and we're like, okay, let's build it together. So there's actually at least one developer from FlatHub is going to be joining us that week. We're hoping to get 2 or 3 out there, and we're going to be working to make sure that this App Center backend is actually basically a generic Flatpak store backend. So any Flatpak store, whether that's FlatHub, whether that's App Center, whether, if System 76 wanted to throw up a little Flatpak store that was specific to their hardware, or if some other distro wanted to say, if KDE wanted to, have all their own apps in their own store, like, you should be able to take this backend that we're building and spin it up on your own server and host your own store pretty easily. That's the goal.
Would it be possible to have a combination where you have the App Center on a particular distro and be able to pull in backends from various different repos?
Yeah, so the idea is all of the App Center magic is basically going to be in the Flatpak remote itself. So just like you can remote add FlatHub right now, you can remote add App Center, whatever the URL will be. And then the authenticator is actually it's a Flatpak GTK app that'll get automatically downloaded by Flatpak when you add that remote. This is in the Flatpak 1.6 release that this technology has been added. So you actually won't have to be running the App Center front end client at all. You could be running GNOME software or KDE Discover, and because we're using Flatpak, we're using AppStream data, we're using a bunch of standards, App Center apps will actually show up in whatever your native App Center is, or your App Store, like GNOME software. And then when you go to install it, it will call out to the Flatpak authenticator and come up with the App Center dialog to say, hey, would you like to pay what you want or enter 0 and do it that way. So you actually won't be running the App Center app at all. The App Center app, I mean, it's open source, but we're not planning to package it up for other distros. We're packaging up the authenticator, which will be a Flatpak that's downloaded when you add the remote, if that makes sense. It's a little complicated, but it's actually really cool because it means you get to use your normal store, and you could add the FlatHub remote and it would show up along the same app store and everything.
Right. Yeah. So I could be on whatever. I could be on Pop OS and use that in the Pop Shop. In the Pop Shop,
or you could be on Fedora. You could be on an OS tree based Fedora or whatever, where you have a completely immutable OS, and you could install App Center apps alongside in GNOME software alongside your FlatHub apps, alongside any other Flatpak remote that you have. So it's kind of cool. It's we're all using the same underlying technology, so it makes sense. Like, you don't actually have to use the App Center client to get to App Center apps anymore after the sprint.
Awesome.
So is your plan to move all elementary apps to a Flatpak repo?
Yes, so that's the goal. Right now, a lot of the third-party App Center apps are, I guess not a lot of, a handful of them are also on FlatHub for developers who have said, hey, I want a wider reach.
Yeah, I've seen
We'll be talking with them and seeing if there's a way to migrate back to the App Center once it's Flatpak, because it'll be really easy for anybody to add the App Center repo. So all curated third-party App Center apps will be in a Flatpak remote. And then the goal is also for first-party elementary OS core apps, like where it makes sense. Like the system settings app will probably never be a Flatpak because it has to talk to all of the system settings.
Yeah.
But things like the calculator and calendar and mail and all those types of apps, yeah, it definitely makes sense to Flatpak those and put them in the same repository.
Okay, I am really excited about this because I love the elementary ecosystem, but I don't like LTS releases because of how old the packages are. So I'm super excited to be able to use that ecosystem on any distro through
Yeah,
FlatHub.
it's really cool. It really decouples the underlying platform from the apps. And there's some cases where that's not always going to be the perfect decoupling. Like we do still have features in elementary OS that don't ship in other OSs or aren't exposed in the same way in other OSs. Like our doc, we have a little doc badges that show you like the number of unread messages on the doc.
Yep.
And that's an API that Unity supports it. KDE, I think, maybe with extensions or something. GNOME only does it with extensions. So if an elementary app requires that API for like a core part of its experience, it's not going to be the exact same experience on another operating system, but the app will run. And it's best practice for developers to make sure that the app is obviously usable without those features. So it's a good way to like dip your toes in the elementary waters, even if you're not in elementary OS.
So do you think that having this Flatpak repository, because you're going to be able to run all of the elementary apps on other distros, do you think that some of the technologies that elementary are developing are going to get better supported since there's going to be a wider exposure? Because let's be real, most people use elementary apps on Pantheon only, and it's not common to see a elementary app on like GNOME. So do you think since it's going to be packaged through Flatpaks now, other desktops might actually start paying attention to some of the elementary technologies, such as like that badge thing you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, they might. And one thing we really strive to do is we strive to actually implement free desktop standards for any of those types of APIs. A way that'll actually work really well on other distros is through the Portals API. So Portals are a Flatpak thing. It's a modern API it's like a permissions model. So it's an app can ask for, I'm trying to think of a good example. An app can ask the portal for the like screen contents if like you're doing a screen recorder app. And so it's up to the operating system to implement that portal UI in whatever way it wants. So GNOME has a portal for that, KDE has a portal, elementary OS will have a portal. And so the way it actually exposes that feature through the OS might be different, but the actual underlying feature is the same. So we're striving, any of our features that aren't currently standard portals, we'll be striving to like propose them as standard free desktop portals. And things like doc badges and there's doc items, which is like a menu when you right click the doc, there's options in that doc. That actually is a free desktop standard now. It didn't used to be, but it is now. So there's stuff like that I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of push the free desktop standards and push the APIs that can be implemented on other platforms for sure.
Very nice. Any other questions for Cassidy?
Yes, I have at least one. With how good the App Center is coming along, Cassidy, what is you and the elementary team's projected date, or what are your plans to basically what I'm trying to say is, how are you guys planning to release the new App Center?
So the goal is for this sprint in mid-late March. So it's March 12th to 19th is when the actual work is happening. The goal is by March 19th to have a working, at least prototype, if not first version. So mid-March, mid-late March. And so that'll be in the form of a Flatpak repository or a Flatpak remote that you can add, just like you can add FlatHub, and an authenticator that will handle the pay what you want purchases through that. Our goal is to have a fully end-to-end functioning, well-tested rollout of this for Elementary OS 6, which we plan to come out sometime this year, I believe. We don't have any hard dates for that because our motto is typically when it's ready. So, but I guess that's the best kind of timeline I can kind of give you.
Well, I think it's something that we're definitely looking forward to. So, like I said, man, I wish you the best with the campaign and with the sprint itself.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been doing awesome. I'm not sure what it's at right now, but it was up at 60-some% recently, or 70-some% recently.
You're at 75% right now.
Nice. All right, that's awesome. Yeah, we're on the second day. We're not even 48 hours in, so this is way above our projection. So that's awesome.
We're going to share it wherever we can and try to do what we can to help you out. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry, it was a little late there.
That's all good.
It's been a crazy day.
No worries. All right, so we are over time, but everybody gets a last word. Jason, last word.
Well, again, thank you, Rocco, for putting on this show so that we can all get together and discuss Linux. And you guys have yourselves a great night.
Joe, last word.
Sorry, I had another window open. It was covering it. Don't laugh too hard. It's been a long day. I've been sitting in this chair too many hours. No, anyway, I appreciate the stream. It's fun to be back again and hang out with all you guys. And Cassidy, it was great to hear what you had to say. I'm glad you're able to make it for a little bit here, and I'm excited to hear that another fantastic development for the Linux world. That's fabulous. Keep going. Keep up the good work. See you guys next week.
Eric, last word.
In case you're wondering, you can be in Zoom for 7.5 hours.
On the paid subscription, you can.
Still working fine.
That's
right. Thanks, Rocco. As always, like I said earlier, and Jason's that was my favorite part of the show. Obviously, was Jason giving his feedback, and it's all part of why I love this community. And I look at every single face here, and just makes me smile and happy to be a part of it. So as long as you'll have me, I'll keep coming. And everyone have a great week.
Pizza, last word.
I am really excited about the Elementary OS Flatpak repo. I'm looking forward to that. I wish I could donate to the GoFundMe, but I'm only 14. I've only been out of elementary school for 3 years, so I can't donate. Sorry.
All good.
But I had a great time tonight. Thanks for doing the show.
Dan, last word.
Thanks as always. Great conversation. Great folks here at the at Biddle. Solus was fun, and thanks to the devs. And look forward to Clear Linux.
Schickel.
It's been a busy and exciting week, but glad to be here. Glad I could make it this time. I appreciate seeing all of you guys' wonderful faces, and I'm super excited for what the future holds. So thank you guys.
Derek?
Well, I'm happy to be here again. It was a wonderful time as always. Thank you, Rocco. Thank you, Eric. And see you next time. I will be working on my first video hopefully tonight.
Nice. Thomas, last word.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come back on again. I am glad that the script worked on the first try because, things when you're testing them publicly tend to decide not to work randomly. So other than that, thanks for having me on. I'm interested in trying out the new App Center once it comes out. It sounds really interesting. And I think this pay what you want model should be looked at more in the Linux community, especially like as a distro maintainer. It's something that's really interesting. So definitely interested in trying it out. And I'll see you guys next week if I can get Clear Linux downloaded.
Nice. Chris, last word.
Nothing much other than stay warm for those of you who are experiencing the cold winter, and those of you experiencing warm summer. I hope you stay cool. And thanks for letting me be an observer on this ride. With that, word. Take care.
Tony, last word.
Yes, it is installed.
Oh my gosh.
I did have trouble, but it is
you
now
made it.
installed. I made it. Thanks for the overtime, Rocco. Much appreciated.
Yep.
It's down
Colin, last word.
Yes, it's installed. But no, it's not booting. It's not booting.
Come on,
now I've
Colin.
lost my elementary. I've lost my
through it,
elementary
Colin.
install now. I don't know where it's gone.
Work through it,
I
Colin.
tried the dual boot with elementary. It's not working, Rocco. So we'll see. I'll just have to use the whole disk, I suppose. But thank you for the platform, Rocco. See you next week.
Steve.
All right. All I got is downloaded. Oh, well. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it. You guys are great. We'll see you soon.
Dave.
Thank you, Rocco and crew, for another great show. Thank you to the Solus devs for a truly phenomenal distro. And contribute to the App Store project, be it in dollars, be it in tweets and retweets, be it in mentions and in conversations. Whenever and wherever you can, it doesn't have to be money, but there are ways to donate. And I will see you all next week.
Agreed. Adam Grubbs, last word.
Yeah, thanks for the show. You should all look forward to cloud gaming. It's the future, just letting you know. Also, everyone should probably check to see if there are any conflict medals in your headset. Just might want to know about that. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful evening.
Just dropping that bomb. As Nick's last word.
Hey, thanks everyone. Always enjoyable, and Solus was a lot of fun. So have a good night, everyone.
JJ, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, for the stream. Thanks to everybody in this community for having a great time tonight, and also hope everybody does well in the distro challenge, and hope all the best for the campaign going on.
Ricky, last word. You're muted somehow, Ricky.
There we go. I had the button.
Nice.
Anyway, I look forward to the App Center. I look forward to reviewing Elementary OS again. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to seeing everybody else real soon.
Very nice. Bill, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you to the Solus devs for continued development on that project. They've done a great job. Thank you, Cassidy, for coming tonight and talking. It's really appreciated.
And Cassidy, last word.
Basically echoing everything else everybody else said. So thanks for having me. Thanks for giving us a platform to chat and share. And head over to elementary.io where there's a link to the campaign at the top there, and check out the campaign. Like everyone else has said, sharing it, talking about it, just raising awareness helps us a ton, even if you can't or don't want to donate. Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. We did try Solus. You missed all the conversation if you just got here. But you can go back and watch it again. Thank you to the devs of Solus for all of the hard work that you put into it. I really appreciate it, but it gives us all a lot of enjoyment to try this stuff out and talk about it and come on here and be together. And if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the efforts of you guys, we would have nothing to talk about. So thank you, Cassidy, for joining us. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best again with the whole campaign. Linux Spotlight last week was Nick from the Linux Experiment YouTube channel. So that was an awesome conversation. I loved talking to him. This week is Yuri Herrera of Nitrix OS. And he also, which I found out that I didn't realize, he is also the creator of the Breeze theme and the Breeze icons, which once I found that out, we did have a nice conversation about pixels. I'm just saying. So I'm still editing that because I'm like, it's a nightmare for audio issues. So hopefully I will get that done by Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. and you can check that out. I think that's all I got. Yeah. So we are trying Clear Linux out for the next 2 weeks. We'll see how that goes, and we'll come back next week and talk about it. Until then, long live Linux.
Night, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.
Night, everyone.
Say ya.
Bye.